wonderful address. Thank you, Jussara. It's always very enlightening to hear you speak. You have this thing about yourself, this smile, this amazing disposition that is very inspiring for all of us. I also want to say that I am so honored to be part of SGNY, and that it's been a blessing in my life and in the life of my family. So thank you for your keynote address to us. And now we go to, a very exciting part of our day. We're going to have some Q&A, and we're going to have Aluisio and Jussara. They're going to talk about some pre-selected topics. We received some questions in advance of our event, and also we'll welcome other questions as well. So we're going to have them both. Aluisio is a prized member of SGNY. He works in the mediumship meetings, and he did not want to talk about himself or send me a bio or anything like that. He only said that he's still learning and hopefully practicing. He's been leading our online group on Monday nights, in lieu of the meetings that we had at the center. And he's doing an amazing job. So welcome, Aluisio. And let's go for questions and answers, Jussara.
All right. Thank you, Lilian. Thank you very much for the intro. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity for, allowing me today to be a little bit like Humberto de Campos, right? I'm going to do some sort of an interview with our Ju, right? Before we start, Ju, if you allow me, I would just like to invite people to send me questions if you would like to. You just click on the chat icon on the bottom of the screen, and you select on the blue, there's a 2, and then everyone, you just select my name. You can send the question directly to me. Unfortunately, I got to tell you all that we are not going to be able to, ask all the questions that you may send, right, because of time. But if you have further questions or are interested in learning more about Spiritism, we do have our study groups, as you all probably know, Tuesdays at noon, and we have a Thursday, 6:30 and 8, and always Sunday, 11 a.m. Oh, and by the way, in Connecticut, we also have at Thursdays at noon as well. Is that right, Lillian? Yes, right. You see? All right. Okay. So what a party, right? I think this is the best kind of party there is. I'm really, really happy to be here, to be able to do a little bit. And Ju, today we had this amazing conversation, right? First, we had Carol with, like always, her inspiring prayer and uplifting messages, right, from her heart. Then we had you, João e Elmo, talking about history, being so open about your history, right, with SGNY. Later, João and Elmo talked about freedom of interpretation, and you just talked to us about, many things, but this uplifting message, right, for us. We also had Alessandra doing a beautiful intro and coordinating elegantly our dear friends, Zoraida, Phil, and Paco, right, who did a very catching storytelling. I was so thrilled, guys. You did a great job, really. It was amazing. And then had Flavia, diplomatic, magnetic, coordinating people, like Carol talking about her exciting journey, right, in spirituality and spiritism. Fabio talking about mediumship, how study and mediumship are connected, right? And also later doing a little bit of his talent in music. We had Renato with his purity of heart and gentle, like a being honest about how oneself, how one should wait for the right moment to do things, especially in mediumship, right? We had Ricardo doing, sharing with us a little bit of his fun and how being in spiritism can also mean having a good time, right, I guess. And Lillian, like always, and a special thank to you, Lillian, for guiding us through the event and being so committed and so reliable and such a good asset, right? Well, we also had Zoraida again, right, Zoraida? Always with us, sharing with us your faith, the strong family bonds, right, that you transpire, that you irradiate. And also we had Danny, Aline, and Mariana sharing with us their nourishing talents and their nourishing hearts. They're really like investors in spiritism for the next generations. So now, Ju, when you started, or in the early days of spiritism, or your journey in spiritism in the US, did you ever thought that you would be surrounded by such a gorgeous, amazing group of people? I mean, how was in the beginning? How was being one of the, I gotta say, one of the pioneers of spiritism in the US? And I mean, a little bit of the early days, not only from your perspective, but like perceptiveness and yeah, please.
I had many one-to-one conversations with God, okay?
All right.
I would say the following. Okay, you put me in this position. You know that I cannot do that alone. That there are many things that not only I could not do alone, but I was not even equipped to do. So, okay, I said, I'm ready to serve, but you have to provide.
Right.
I'll do my part if you do yours.
Did he deliver?
And actually, I had, well, sometimes I'm still complaining. I'm still complaining because, I'm ambitious, but yeah, absolutely, more than I could hope for. Because very early it was always clear to me that I cannot row a boat by myself. And what is the fun in doing that, right? The fun is actually having people, and who am I going to boss around, right? Since you all said that or many of you that said Jussara is the one that pushed me, and she pushed me, and I said, oh my God, I'm going to be the pusher, right? This is what you're going to write in my tombstone, the pusher of everyone. Well, yeah, I think that one of the things, because I got that from, this, my mentor in Brazil, and Nilce. I mean, she was always pushing me hard and very, very hard, sometimes to tears. But now I understand that this was the way it had to be. And it's what I call the authoritarian love, that I think I learned
Tough love,
myself.
baby.
Yeah,
Love.
tough love, yes, tough
Okay.
love that I learned myself as well. And you see, I think that this is what we all have to do. We have to inspire and push and motivate people to do that for themselves. So at the beginning, as you can imagine, it was very, very hard. I mean, I placed the beginning even in England. Okay, I mean, when I arrived there was only 2 Spiritist centers. One that was the one that started everything in England, is the one that we attended while we lived there. But there were almost no workers, no qualified workers. There was, the work had to grow and to improve. And so it was amazing, because we had the opportunity of helping each other, of putting together study groups and all of that, and start, giving the first impulses for the movement to grow even more. And and when we and in a way there it was easy because I went to a spiritist center that the founder was the Janet Duncan, this English lady, and from the beginning she told me, if you are practicing spiritism in a different country, please use the language of that country. So when I came here, there was none of that, basically. There were many groups trying to accommodate somehow, the few scattering Americans that would come to meetings, but it was never something that had an structure as a spiritist center like we know and as we have in Brazil, because the Brazilian community here that was in need of assistance as well was a big one, and of course it requires dedication. So when we decided to start doing that, I almost on myself, and and putting together all of this, thinking about the future was very, very hard. As you can imagine, there were no books, no materials, no people,
When we were talking, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
When we were talking, you were saying that back then there were not many books in English, right? I remember you saying there were like 3 books or 4 books, and not even not even all the 5 from Allan Kardec were actually translated. So
exactly,
translating the last one, right? You had to do it by yourself.
To our knowledge, we only had 5 books. 3 the first 3 of the codification, not the 5 that composes the codification, and 2 others. One of the messages from Chico that we still have today, the Christian Agenda, and then another one that was an abridged version of Nosso Lar, and that was it. And no material, nothing. So we had to start with no group, no qualified. Well, no qualified up to this day, right? No qualified workers or volunteers, no people, of course, because
nobody knew about it, right? Why would they come if they didn't know about it?
I mean, there were meetings that we were like 5 people, the 3 of us and 2 other that would just show up, maybe by the mercy of God, because otherwise we would have shut our doors in the first year. And it took us a while even to understand why all that was happening. And it came to mind that story from Chico Xavier, because Chico Xavier said that when he started, for 2 years in a row, many times he was the only living soul as meaning, because we all living, right? Incarnated soul in the group, and that he was there and had and the spirit Emmanuel, his mentor, would tell him, go on with the work. But he said, what am I going to do? To whom am I going to speak? There is no one here. And he said, keep on doing that, And so he said, well, my reputation was even worse than before, because being a Christian, becoming a spiritist in the the beginning of the 20th century, in the countryside of Brazil. And here he is talking to himself, and people would pass through the window and see, and what could they imagine about him? So I remember that story. And then, of course, it was not when we were leaving that, but afterwards that I thought, the first 2 years was really a struggle. Very few people, that moment that you think,
were they at least more receptive? Were they receptive in the beginning?
I don't know. I mean, we had some good souls there, but the thing is, we were always thinking, what are we doing right or wrong? What is happening? And then we realized that this was also a training period for us,
Got
even
it.
to
Got it.
start becoming more familiar. Although João and myself already worked in London in English, so we had the vocabulary and all that. It was not still that much, and Elmo as well was, so it was a training period for us. And so only after basically 2 years, it was when more people start coming, more Americans start coming, or foreigners, like I say, not necessarily only Americans. And it was when the work started becoming more expressive in a way, if I can say that. So it was really hard. It required a lot of determination. We didn't have money at all, to rent places. We had to rent by the hour. I mean, we had to, how to set up a spiritist center in 5 minutes, because this place that we were renting, like Zoraida said, there is a place very close to Broadway still.
Oh, it wasn't on the
And
same. It wasn't on the same apartment.
no, it's
The
in
same.
the same, no, not the same room, but a smaller room. But
Yeah.
the same place where people from Broadway, they use the rooms to rehearse.
Mhm.
And so they would leave, and then we had like 5 minutes to clean everything, to
Organize
set
everything.
up, to put an ambience
No,
of, a spiritist center. We had to bring our own, little iPods with music and everything.
yeah.
And then the books, the little ones,
Water
the
and
few that we had to bring on our hand. So it was quite something, actually. But yeah, but here
I
we
mean,
are.
I guess you guys did a great job, because when I arrived in New York City, 2015, it was like easy. You just plug and go, right? I left Belo Horizonte already with the contact. The first weekend, it was already everything set up. So thank you guys.
Yeah. The
Well,
hard work was done.
was done. One of the things that I like the most about SGNY is that we are punctual, right? Even if we are like workers of the late hour, we are punctual in the late hour. So we have still like 40 minutes to talk. And for that reason, I'll ask you some more. Well, try to ask more questions here, if you allow me, Ju. When we were talking, you were telling me a very interesting story about the first time you actually, let's say, came up with or came into information about Givaldo. If you remember, of course you remember.
Yeah.
But maybe you can share with us. I thought it was a great story. Maybe people haven't heard it. It was
Okay.
first time I heard it. So because you were working in evangelization and right.
Okay, Alois, maybe in another 20 years, I will not remember anymore.
I'll write it down. I already wrote it down. So
No. But what happened 2 days ago, I still remember. Okay, I cannot guarantee when we will celebrate the 40 years what is going to happen. Well, the punctuality is something also that has nothing to do necessarily with living in London, okay? But both João and myself, we are very respectful with time. And from the beginning, understanding the commitment of the spirits, and knowing, that they really give their time and their attention to the slot that we we reserve with them. I always have this, super respect towards them and towards the incarnate as well. I always say there is no problem in us even finishing earlier if this is the case, but going too much extra time, it's not right for the incarnates and much less for the discarnates. that
Yes.
have our other commitments. So I always
Actually,
like
the
to do
meetings,
that.
they happen at night, so people are hungry. They want to get home
Yes,
and have
yes,
dinner,
yes.
right? So it's a
Yeah.
good thing.
So we try
So, yeah,
to make this a point. I think it's part of, learning basic discipline that it's so necessary for other things, right?
absolutely.
And I mean, for bigger accomplishments. So if we don't learn this basic discipline. So yeah, I remember that I was talking to you because we wanted to know when was the first time that I met and how I got in touch with Divaldo Franco.
Mhm.
And then I told you that the first time that I talked about him was when I was in the spiritist education for children and youth. I worked many times as many years as a coordinator of a group of from 11 to 14.
Mhm.
And
It was a smaller, right?
yes, and I love this group because 11 to 14 is a wonderful age. They know how to, to ask the
Mariana's is like
question.
nodding there, like
They know how to. They are
agreeing.
not necessarily that much teenagers or troubled or, but they already communicated very consciously with you. So
Mhm.
I love this group. It was really wonderful to work with them. And there was one day that I was teaching a class to them. And I don't know why, I don't remember quite well, but I had to mention Divaldo Franco and mention one of his books.
People were
Okay,
asking about him, right? People
yeah,
were
yeah.
interested. Yeah.
And then when it came to the point where they were going to interact and ask questions, they started asking me question about Divaldo. They said, "Oh, we want to know more about this man. We want to tell us about him." And that was when I felt really in trouble because I knew nothing about him except what I said at that point that I mentioned him. And those guys, they were tricky. They don't want you, they don't like when you say, well, I don't know, or anything. So I was there,
People test you, right, with questions, and
yeah,
I tell
not
myself
knowing what
sometimes,
to
to be
do.
honest.
And all of a sudden I saw myself replying to each and every question, and they made so many questions about him. They didn't stop, starting, where was he, what did he do, and books, and here
Favorite
was,
color.
replying to each and every question, mentioning names of books that I have never heard before.
Amazing.
And I was beginning to feel, I think I was pale, I don't know, but when the class finished and all of them left, and we always worked in 3 coordinators, the coordinators, the other 2 looked at me and said, "Oh, good job, Jussara," or something like this too. And I was like, say, "Oh my God, I don't know what happened," but it was not me that answered those questions. I had no knowledge at all about this man, so I could never forget about it because. What happened, right, in this moment. So later on, he visited our center. I met him there, but I really started getting to know him 27 years ago when we were in London, and then we started having more and more contact, and he has been truly a blessing in my spiritual life, a real spiritual father to me.
Ours, I mean, for I guess for all of us, is a great
Mhm.
well, example, let's say. And in addition to being like a wonderful human being and all of the things that you do, you're also well, an amazing medium, to be honest, right? And when we were talking about Givaldo, I mean, I just want to bring it up because you were saying about your first perception about Joana de Angelis, and I guess we all get curious about how do they actually look like, right? How do those big guys, the big shots, actually look, their perispirit and everything? Can you just give us a little bit of what your, like, I don't know, maybe just a Just a
Well,
hunch.
it's well amazing. I'm not I'm not at all. I'm completely average. Amazing is Vivaldo, right? But yeah, sometimes we have the blessing of being able to perceive the spirits. As normally I say, I see spirits with my eyes shut,
Mhm.
so their images come to my mind, and sometimes it becomes clearer than others. And sometimes we are blessed with the seeing the vision of some spirits that sometimes we more like feel their presence than necessarily seeing their image completely, but
Mhm.
other times as well. And yeah, I had the blessing of already seeing some of the spirits that have been guiding myself, such as Dr. Bezerra, Joana, the spirit of Joana de Angelis, Abraham Lincoln, and some others that have been very present in the spiritist movement all over the world and in this country, and it is a blessing.
And just so we can get like a mental picture, how amazing is it? Like how overwhelming? Just so we can get a mental picture. Is it
Oh, it's very
striking? Is it
overwhelming. Yes, it's it's like trying to plug a device in that is 110 in the 220 or 20 or the other way around. I mean,
explosion? Boom.
it's like it's too much, and normally the emotion, because you feel very humble, the Euripides Barça movie, you feel very humble when you feel the presence of those spirits. It's like you're a vase and they are pure water, and you're not enough size of vase to contain what they bring. So but it's a good overwhelming. It's not a bad one. You see, it's not that it's bad, but it's and the only thing that is hard is that sometimes when you have those few opportunities that we have to experience that, you don't feel like returning to earth that early. You see, talking or
Yeah.
interacting, so that can be very tricky.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing, Ju. Just a quick message. Renato and Mariana, I got your questions. They are actually pretty much the last question we had prepared for we're going to get there, but thank you guys. Well, Ju, now what I would like to say maybe can help us all relate to maybe what your answer going to be. Because when we start in Spiritism, which is, I mean, it's not a young philosophy, religion, or you name it anymore, right? We are kind of a teenager, right? We grew a lot already, but it is still not that completely understood or not maybe entirely accepted. And I can at least imagine that before it was even less so, right, in the past. So how was dealing, maybe you dealt with it, like starting in Spiritism, family members or even friends who wouldn't really understand what you were doing. Uh, I guess we all here face those challenges, and maybe I'm not even only say that even for the meetings is especially so, because even if you're not and you're just in love with this philosophy, with this line of thinking, you still feel kind of awkward sometimes to talk to people about it, people that maybe don't share the same line of thinking. So what do you think? How was it for you? And what do you think we as spiritists, probably everyone here already faced a little bit of this. What would you, well, tell us about it.
I think that we all should consider ourselves to be change makers,
Change
and
makers.
change makers are never quite understood in their time. You see, when you are there, even to yourself, to remove yourself and to inspire others to move out from their comfort zone, it's not something that people are very interested in doing. Even when you promise them that they are going to find, better things that are expecting them, they will be reluctant to do so because, well, I still prefer my old shoes, there is even this tale that we have in one of Andrea Louis' books that is about that little fish, the little red fish, that because he's so little, so small, he's able to swim from the pond to the ocean. And then he faces all those, marvelous things. He can see, an entire new world, much bigger and richer and interesting than the little pond that he's in. And then he comes back to tell his friends and say, listen, there is a whole new world outside. What are you still, confining? Do not confine yourself to this little dirty pond, that can even go dry. And but there is a catch. I'm very small and tiny. You're not. So, the passage to this other world requires you to become smaller, so you have to go through a regimen and or a diet, so to say, in order to pass through this, this little hole. And I say, oh, you're asking too much. It's too much sacrifice, changing our ways. And who can guarantee you're having a vision? So this is the thing with change makers. They are idealists, but we are not talking about here crazy idealists, that lives in a world of no reality world, because as we know, spiritism is supposed to be a philosophy of reason that all the time says you have to think. So what happened is that because it requires a certain level of spiritual maturity and even commitment and discipline, not everyone is actually thinking about doing that or committed to do
maybe
that.
Even ready.
And not ready. And the thing is that sometimes not only they are going to criticize you, mock you, and I have been the subject of mockery forever, I was really very precautious in so many things, in becoming a vegetarian, in becoming a spiritist, in all. I mean, I was completely out of everything that happened during my time. So I know what is it this means. And I think that in a certain way, all of us feel that, because even when you have family members that perhaps may sympathize, okay, with the ideas, may applaud the ideas, not necessarily they are as committed to the point of engaging as much as some of us do engage. And so they say, you look like a radical, you're a fanatic, because everything is about spiritism and all. Like, yeah, even the other day I was watching a movie with João, and the bad guy was having the time of his life, and I said, well, wait till he gets back to the spirit realm and everyone is going to see very clear what you did. You cannot hide it. So, I mean, it's part of who we are, right? I mean, and yeah, I think but from the perspective of knowing more, understanding more, we should be the ones that should be more tolerant with others that have not yet reached the same conclusions that we had, and respect them and respect their pace, because I'm sure in the past many of the superior spirits that are now inspiring us they have been respecting us as well. And
When we
give it
were being intolerant and disrespectful.
give it time, you know, growth is inevitable.
Got it. Got it. Thank you very much. And we were also saying that even though we have that, like one face of the coin is this maybe intolerance, this difficulty in family, friends, we also get the opportunity to meet a new family, right? We are all here. I'm pretty much sure we are all connected, maybe other lives. And when we were talking about it, you said like the distinction between blood family and spiritual family. I mean, there can be an overlap, right? But there is a clear distinction, and I guess as you go living, you can actually see it better, right? This distinction. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's part of the understanding of reincarnation as well, because we cannot necessarily be blood related, and there's no need for that, but definitely we are spiritually related. And this creates much longer, stronger bonds among ourselves, not only because we have an ideal in common, but because, you know, we are going together in this journey and helping and each other in this journey. So if there is not this kind of relation to the, you know, the bloodline, the family that we have here, it doesn't mean that they deserve less our love and attention, because if they are with us, we learn as well that there is a reason why we come together. But in terms of communion of thoughts and communion of ideals and things that and relationships that we can be sure that are going to be lasting, the spiritual relationship is the one that we always have to aim for. And like you said, it can be our family member, bloodline or not. It doesn't matter.
No, doesn't matter. All right. Uh, Also, when we were talking about immortality, and you said something extremely interesting. That was like when you actually understand immortality of the soul, right? Uh, you come necessarily to certain behavior. It's almost impossible not to start behaving in a certain way, right? How do you actually see this understanding of immortality? Because it's not reading the books, right? I mean, reading the books is a extremely important side of it, right? But
Yeah.
what exactly do you see as understanding immortality, reincarnation?
Yeah, to me, it was like, you know, putting two and two, two plus two, you know, together and getting to four. There could be no other plausible answer, at least for the moment. And one of the struggles that I had very early in life, like when I said that I attended life, I had two major uh, points that led me to the point of rebellion, you know. But thank God I learned earlier that I shouldn't try to ask too much and to cause trouble. And one of the things was to think about God as being that old man sitting in a throne. I mean, that vision was always something that I mean, it never made sense to me. And the second thing that was the most important one is that it cannot be possible that we die and this is it. And here we are talking about the 6-year-old thinking about it, okay, and questioning that. And of course, the questions just continue with me until I got the answer. But I was learning in Sunday school about God, about God's love, about God's justice. And at this point, I don't even know how, you know, I was too young to know that, but I don't know how. I was already thinking, but look around, there are so many differences in the world, people dying at early age, people, you know, people having so much, people having nothing. How can God be this, you know, great guy sitting in a throne and be oblivious to all these differences. And so it was only when I started attending the Spiritual Center and with patience, reading and going and learning, that I learned about immortality, but also reincarnation, that I said, well, now this makes sense.
Got it.
Now I understand. And so up to now, people that come to me and ask about it, I say, you know what? I don't know if this is the ultimate truth, but so far it has been the only one that in all my years have been giving me peace of mind and understanding that there is a reason for everything that is happening. I may not see or know the reason, but it doesn't happen by chance. And so immortality and reincarnation change the our concepts completely, and the way we have to start dealing with life.
So being a medium, it's not like a prerequisite of actually feeling this immortality, right? What do you think? It's absolutely possible to come to the same perception, even if you don't see spirits walking around and talking in your ears and everything.
Yeah, to me, it was never about mediumship. And up to this point, although I study a lot about mediumship, I give workshops and etc., and I really love the subject. Somehow, it's not even my favorite activity in the Spiritual Center. I don't know if it's because to me, mediumship was something very natural. I never went through, those trauma like sometimes we hear about. Yeah, of course, I would see a spirit here and there, but I would know what you perhaps would be thinking or who was going to be calling, but that was so natural to me. It was never a reason for any kind of disturbance. So I didn't have any kind of disturbance. In fact, the only time that I got very worried about it was, of course, at that point, I was still learning about mediumship. Mm-hmm. And my family used to go to the New Year's Eve to Rio de Janeiro. We had family members there, and we would stay there with
see the fireworks and
stuff. To see the fireworks, to go to the beach, to dress in white. And nice. One of the traditions that we had there too is also to have, the Mãe de Santos, the mediums that, that would be there, with their extravagant collars and necklaces and all white and receiving entities. And I remember, I guess I was 12 or 13 at this point. And of course, my mother and I went to talk to one of those mediums, and she was there, having a cigar, probably on the other way around, with the flame inside there.
You mean the flame? Oh,
yeah, because that's to show that you're the big deal. Okay, no, it doesn't hurt when you are in this state. And so this woman, she looked at me. She was like, a very big African American with those brilliant and colorful necklaces, and she looked at me and said, "Oh, you're a medium." If you want,
just like that, you say hello, and she will say,
"No." And she said, "If you want, I'm going to bring your spirit guide to communicate through you here and now."
Wow.
Oh my God.
Did you accept it, or?
I was so afraid that I said I was in one side of the beach before he finished. I had run. I don't know how long.
How old
the
are
other
you?
side. I was 12 or 13. I'm
You're
not
a
so
baby.
sure.
Oh,
yeah, but she wanted to do that. So that was traumatic. That was traumatic, but it was the only traumatic experience that I had like this one, So I don't think we need to have ostensive mediumship to understand about immortality and to have faith. And sometimes this can even perhaps get in the way.
That's right.
I think it's mainly about understanding that if we have this relationship with the spirit realm, it's just for them to, to really come and tell us, look, I'm here. Uh, life
Knock,
goes
knock.
on.
Yeah,
Life
yeah,
goes on. Yeah.
yeah. Got it. No, thank you, Ju. Thank you very much. I guess we have 15 minutes left, so I guess we should be heading to our last question. And Mariana, as I said, Mariana and Renato send questions that are, I think, related to what we're gonna say now. So, guys, I will kind of rephrase what you ask. Okay, Ju, for the next 20 years or for the future of spiritism, I mean, let's not say in the world because that's too much maybe, but the future of spiritism in the US, even your, I mean, your life's work, João's work, Elmo's work, everybody's here's work. What do you think the legacy will be? What do you think, how do you see the future for spiritism in the US? How receptive do you think it's going to be, or it already is? How do you see it growing? And what do you wish maybe or expect the seeds of your work or the fruits of your work to be in 20, 50, 300, 5,000 years? I don't know. maybe 50 years. Let's put it.
Well, Aluisio, it's we are just servants.
Mhm.
That's why I always like this this way that Jesus presents some of his parables. The parable of the sower. The sower is is just one spirit, which is each and every one of us here.
Mhm.
So it comes to a point in time that the Lord of the vineyard will see us fit to become a sower. Okay, so now we have an assigned role, but we don't have the seeds.
Mhm.
We don't make the seeds.
We don't make the seeds. Yeah.
They don't belong to us. We only have the responsibility of, upon receiving the seeds, not letting them spoil in our hands or not being well sown. I just have this one responsibility. Okay, do you want to be a sower? Okay. Here are the seeds I'm giving to you. Go and sow the seeds. So all of us here, we are doing that. We got a certain amount of seeds that doesn't belong to us, that we cannot make or replicate. So we are here just putting out the words that Jesus told us 2,000 years ago, and others that preceded him, because it is a continuation of all this religious thought, spiritual history that we have in our world, in our planet Earth. And so we are doing that. And some of us may wanted to find shortcuts and say, oh, I can see that the soil is not that good, but it is my soil. You see, like when sometimes we wanted to favor our loved ones. So I'm going to throw a seed there, and maybe we'll not see it grow because we were not that careful choosing the places, or we wanted to finish the work soon, whatever reason. So what we are doing here is trying to make the seeds that were given to us to fructify and to multiply. So I think the main work, one thing that I would like one day to be remembered by is that
your question.
If I'm not here 20 years, in the next 20 years, if you can say that, I'm going to appreciate by heart. That would be Jussara sowed the seeds, and I am one of the seeds that she has sown, because I'm here multiplying what I learned from her. So if I'm doing a good job, is helping all of you to become multipliers, like I'm trying to be a multiplier. You see? So, and if each one of us do that in 20, 40 years, I mean, it's geometrical progression. We are going to grow even more. And I want to return here and reap some of the benefits of what we are doing now.
We don't know. Maybe when we come back,
Yeah.
we already Mars in the civilizations, humans we're gonna build in Mars or whatever, and spiritism will be there too, being incubated in I don't know.
I mean, coming back here in 50 years and not having to worry because there are no spiritist centers. There are no books. There are no English materials. There are no people qualified to teach that or to pass on this knowledge. So I mean, I hope to reach this benefit, returning as a native without an accent, and being capable of, reaping a little bit of this, and honor the pioneers that are going to be us. Right? Honor the pioneers that have put their efforts to do that. I mean, it is an honor for all of us to be called to become the sowers. And we have to have no doubt in our minds that all of us that are here, this is exactly what happened. And all of us can give our contribution. It's just a matter of, keep on going, not worrying whether, your size, the size of your garden is smaller than the other one. I mean, you just have the responsibility with your garden, with what you are doing there. I may have acres and acres of land and sterile land. And you can have a tiny garden that everyone will stop to appreciate all the fruits and flowers that it is giving now. So it was never a matter of quantity, but of the quality of how much we committed heart and soul to do this work. So what I hope for all of us to accomplish is that, we will return to the spirit realm and we will look and say, oh my God, I helped to do that. And this is so amazing. Yeah, I could have done more, of course, but it's okay. I already did something.
Got it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have 5 minutes left. We didn't get any more questions and we don't have time for a big one anymore. Maybe you can tell us, and I love the books, right? So maybe you can tell us your favorite spiritist book, or one you think we all should read or have read, or can you do it? Is that okay?
It's going to be, a very simple answer. It was always the spirit book. Not because, I've been cheesy and giving the answer that everyone expected, but it was the book that made me each time more curious about everything. I love the way that we have, the question and answers. I love the way that Kardec put it, all the things that I don't need to read from question 1 to 1019. I can choose the topics. So the first time that I read the book, of course, I did like this. I didn't want to read it from, I was like, 12, 13. Okay, of course I
So
didn't want
you
to
were like
read
skipping pages and going back and forth.
from introduction to, you know, first things. Of course I wanted to know about the, I was always very much into the occult. So when I found that page there that talks about the occult, the talisman, and I mean, of course I went straight.
Directly
I mean, maybe not the first one, but you know, dreams and all of those things that there are there, or even reincarnation. There are so many interesting topics, and up to this day, I'm amazed to read the questions that I read. I don't know, so many times, and oh my God, look what it's saying here. So it was always not only because of the content, but because of the format. I love the format. I love the format. And my second favorite is, you know, the favorite of so many people as well, is Paul and Stephen, because of it's. I mean, to me, it's a book that brings healing to people. So I think it's a book that if we could read it once a year, it brings healing to your homes. It brings healing to your lives. It inspires us. It brings us history. Of course, you know, according to our own experiences in terms of reincarnation, we may be more or less connected to certain literature. And so this literature in particular, talking about, you know, the early ages of Christianity, the disciples, apostles, and Paul, that I love so much, it was always very touching to me. But I was resistant to read this book. I just read this book.
Really? Why?
Yeah, I got this book from a friend of mine. He was a French, and he attended college with me in Brazil. And he said, I was at the time, I guess 20 or something, and talking to him, and knowing that he was a Frenchman, I mean a French boy, and a spiritist, and knowing that I was a spiritist. And then he said, he mentioned the Paul and Stephen book. And I said, oh, I never read this book. And he said, how come you are a spiritist and you never read this book? So he gave the book to me. But I thought the book was kind of too thick.
Second,
Yeah, and it stayed in my shelf for about 2-3 years, I think. And I don't know, the cover of the book. There is, you know, Stephen was being
throwing a
stoned,
stone
or
at the same version.
and so I don't know what happened, but I had a certain resistance to read this book and Memoirs of a Suicide, so as well. And but after 2-3 years, I got the book and I read it. Oh my God.
Amazing. Yeah.
I said, why did I waste so much time to read this book? Those are the two main books.
That's great. I gotta say, those are my two favorites as well. And I read the Paul and Stephen book when I was walking the St. James Way. So in Spain,
Okay.
it was amazing. All right. I mean, it's the end, Drew. I don't know if you like to make any final address. If not, Lillian.
Well, just thanking everyone that is here. There are many faces that I'm seeing here that you have not had the chance to say any words, but you are in our hearts. I'm going to try to say some of your names, like Vera, my dear Vera, Marisol. And I'm just going to say the names of people that have not spoken, okay? And Daniela, and Andrea, that is here. Let me look at the following page. And Renata, and Jenny, that I want a little bit of Jenny as well, and Angelita, and Murilo, and Silene, and Laura, and Celina, and Fernanda. So thank you everyone for being here, for being, you know, and Dulce, that I'm seeing, for being such an amazing people, and Adilson, and Luis Leon, and for being so special, and being part of all this celebration today.
Okay, Ju, since you spoke so beautifully about the seeds and the garden. I want to share with you, although for some reason I can't. Hmm, it's not sharing my picture. That's too bad. I was gonna share with you a picture of one of your gardens, but apparently this
Maybe she
app is
wants
not
to
letting.
make you host so then you can share.
I am a host,
Oh,
so yeah, but it doesn't appear. Uh, it does not appear as
Maybe if you
one
send to us on a WhatsApp, we can share here. No?
Let me see.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, it's coming. It's,
No.
you
The
just have
picture.
to look at the
Picture.
yeah, you have to choose which one to
I
share
already
with
did,
us.
so it's really not working on this
Okay.
computer. I apologize, but I was going to
Okay.
show a picture of us when we had one of the meetings here at SGCT, and to say that this is one of your gardens. We are just a few people, but we hope to be. Yes, here it is. Yeah. This was taken a little over a year ago, and it was taken here. It was a very, very special day. If I'm not mistaken, it was Flavia's birthday, and it was right before my surgery. And we were all together here. So this is one of our gardens. And we hope to be able to multiply these seeds many, many fold in our path going forward. Thank you for everything to all of you, Elmo, João, Jussara, and all of the workers of SGNY. With that, I think we have come to the end of our day, which was beautiful. And to cap it all off beautifully, I would like to ask Zoraida to say our final prayer, if you will. Zoraida.
As we come to the end of our beautiful 20th anniversary celebration of the Spirit Group of New York, with our hearts filled with gratitude, we give you thanks to our Almighty God, our loving God. We praise our Father, Jesus Christ, our mentor, our teacher, who has inspired and assisted the Spiritist Group of New York. We give you thanks to our spiritual benefactors who have given us the strength and the courage in our work and in our studies. May we send out our profound devotion of gratitude to our teachers, our beloved teachers, for their dedication in Spiritism. For our lovely Jussara, for Joel, for Elmo, for Mariana, who has now been working with our next generation of Spiritists, the SGNY kids. Dear Lord, we thank you all. May God bless you all for now and always. May we always thank our mediums who have been working with us, bringing the illumination and the needs in the spiritual world. We also pray, dear Father, for the United States Spiritist Federation, for the United States Spiritist Council, all that have contributed to 20 years of devotion, of learning, with charity and with love for all that are here. May we continue, Lord, with inspiration in our devotion to continue your work, dear God. For we know we're not alone, and we will continue with all our hearts and all our souls, helping this planet Earth. With our hearts full of gratitude, may we meet again another 20 years, inspiring each and every one of us. Thank you, dear Lord. Thank you. And with that in mind, we ask permission to close our meeting today. So be it.